I was 26 when the bottom fell out of my shallow little world. It was a Tuesday morning. I was hungover. I'd been out with my new boyfriend of 6 weeks the night before. I was in the shower. I had a sought-after job in fashion PR, and I was running late for work. And then I found a lump in my breast. It didn't feel right. It felt like a hard marble trapped under the skin, but I was not in the mood to deal with it. So I pushed it out of my head and got on with my day. But that lump nagged me. So come Friday, I went to my GP. She sent me for a mammogram that afternoon, and after which a nurse came into the room, wouldn't catch my eye, and shuffled me off to a side room where a doctor I'd never seen before examined my x-rays very intently, didn't address me, used a lot of medical terms I didn't really understand. And it wasn't until about the third time he used the term carcinoma, I realised he was informing me I had cancer. The days that followed were a hive of frenzied activity, which I moved through in a zombie-like state, partly due to my newfound love of sleeping pills. On the Monday morning, I had a biopsy at Auckland Hospital where I was informed that the cancer wasn't contained within my breast. So I was looking at chemotherapy, radiotherapy, hormone treatment that would put me through menopause. And my parents had to hustle their bank for money in lieu of my lack of medical insurance, and I had to choose a breast. So I threw a dinner party for 3 of my best friends. I presented them with a plastic surgery dossier and got them to select me something. They chose one where the lat dorsi muscle comes around and wraps around a saline implant in my chest. So, a mere 10 days after that initial GP visit, I was being admitted to hospital to have my breast removed and reconstructed. I was so scared about losing my breast. I was completely traumatised by it. When I came to from the surgery, I latched my head firmly over to the left-hand side. I couldn't see anything in the vicinity. When the lovely nurse convinced me a few days later that I should take a look, she actually had to bring me a mirror. But once I saw it, I was like, oh, no, that's not bad at all. What was I being so melodramatic about? It's great. And it was so weird, immediately just adapted to it. And I realised pretty quickly that if you have to lose an appendage, a breast is kind of a useless one. It's certainly not like losing an arm or a leg. So I was dismissed from hospital down 1 breast, 23 lymph nodes, 1 lat dorsi muscle. I went home to my little apartment and I received an endless stream of visitors. I made them cups of tea, I fed them biscuits, and I cleaned up after them with my sore arm. They all told me that I was amazing and I was doing really, really well. And I thrived on that. I needed it, but I realised pretty quickly that they needed it too. It was so important for them to build this narrative around me that I was doing so well and everything was going to be okay. It kind of stopped them from worrying too much about me. Pre-cancer, I was a 26-year-old party girl with a love for wearing low-cut tops. I drank too much, I smoked too much. My idea of health food was ordering the vegetarian falafel from the kebab shop under my house. All of a sudden, this was just all taken away from me, and yet for my friends, life just went on. I was so resentful of them for being able to do that. And I was amazed to see lifelong friendships crumble. I couldn't find anyone to have dinner with me on my 27th birthday when I was in the middle of chemo. I made some lifestyle changes. I tried to investigate better ways to live, but I had this overwhelming sense that if I changed who I was too much, if I changed the essence of me, that the cancer would be winning. I went through a support group at St. Mark's Breast Clinic at the time, and they had this through their various, one of their analogies that they had, their theories, was cancer as being like a soup. Change the ingredients and you could create an environment where cancer couldn't grow, so reduce stress or exercise more. I took huge solace in this. Through the backdrop of this crazy, awful, horrible year, this beautiful love story was unraveling with, spoiler alert, the guy who would go on to become my husband. So I took huge comfort in this. I saw the fact that I now had this amazing love in my body is changing the cellular structure of it so much that I couldn't possibly have an environment where cancer could now grow. I actively sought out other people who were going through the same treatment as me. I was so lucky I managed to put together a group there was 6 of us, the most fantastic women aged early 20s to late 30s, and we were the best of friends, breast friends, the young and the breastless. We had all sorts of kooky names for ourselves. The first time we all came together, one of them admitted that she hadn't let her husband see her new breast. It had been a couple of months, but she was just so scared. And we were able to laugh at that and let her see the foolishness of it and cajole her through it in a way that the highest paid therapists in the world couldn't. We inspired and educated each other. I started looking into meditation and acupuncture and hearing some of their stories about the nutritional information they were finding out. We became closer and closer as we went through our various treatments. We started to grow back little tufts of hair on our head. We were almost all menopausal, which not many of our friends understood. And we just were high on life, really, towards the end of it. We were amazing. We'd looked cancer in the eye, told it to get fucked, and it had run away in terror. But then 2 of them died. It's an incredibly difficult thing to nurse your friends through the final stages of a disease that you've both had. There was meal rosters, childcare, housework. One of them sent me to the bookshop to buy birthday cards for all of her children until their 21st birthday. My dearest friend Helen lived long enough for me to tell her I was pregnant. She had just come back from a healer in Brazil. She was incredibly frail, and it was obvious that the biggest battler of all wasn't going to make it. This was hugely confronting on many levels. She was one of my favourite people in the entire world. And also, we'd ridden high on this power of positive thinking. And here was proof that it just wasn't enough. I thought that saying goodbye to Helen would be the hardest thing that I had to do while pregnant, but unbelievably, I was wrong. At 35 weeks pregnant and smack in the middle of New Zealand Fashion Week, I waddled over next door to MedLab and had a routine blood test. I went back, literally got on with the show. A few days later, I was in the bath and I'd asked my husband to ring for the results. I had my superstitions and I could not handle looking at the doctor's eyes whenever I went into the room. So he rang for the results and I could hear something that didn't sound right. So I hauled myself out of the bath, went into the lounge, and he told me that my cancer marker was elevated. I'd been through this with my 2 late friends. So for the first time ever, we turned to Google. And we were so relieved to read that sometimes during pregnancy, your cancer marker can change from a reading of around about a standard 11 to about 30. So we rang the doctor back, like, dude, don't scare us. We've got, do your research. We asked him what my reading was. 340. I don't know how we got through the next few weeks. I got sent for ultrasound. And it was so weird. I was kind of hoping that they would find cancer in my remaining left breast. It would be, hopefully, a contained area away from any major organs. But then if that happened, that wouldn't back up my theory, not supported by any medical people, that I was just weird. They didn't find anything that day and they couldn't do x-rays because of my pregnancy. So I was basically dismissed from care, told to go away, enjoy my time with my baby, and to get back in touch with them when I felt ready. I had gone through, what I'd gone through with my friends taught me that it's not about who dies, it's about who they leave behind and how they leave them. So I tried so hard to work on the relationship between my husband and my unborn child. I tried to keep my time for the car. I went to the spiritual bookshop and I bought a CD, Meditations in Times of Stress. I got in the car and put it on, waited for the sweet relief to wash over me. It started off. It can be really difficult when you don't get that job you've always wanted. Similarly, I went to antenatal at the same time, and the teacher asked the group, "What do you do in times of stress?" And someone raised their hand and said, "I make a cup of Milo." I finally got the doctors to induce me at 39 weeks. After my baby was born, things just became so much harder. I loved him so much, and the stakes were now so much higher. Every time I was given an outfit for a 6-month-old, I would fold it and sob, not knowing if I would ever get to see him wear it. When he was about 6 to 8 weeks old, I went back to the doctor to have my test done again, and I was just weird. It was fine. After this, I decided to have another baby quite quickly because I thought it would be quite nice to have that happy newborn baby time. So my baby starts school on Monday, and after he was born, all my anxieties and superstitions that I had about my health were completely amplified. I would cough and think I had cancer in my lungs. I would sleep funny and think I had cancer in my spine. I became deeply superstitious. 6 weeks after meeting my husband, I was diagnosed with cancer. 5 months before our wedding, I'd had endometriosis, misdiagnosed a secondary cancer of the ovaries, and had to have an emergency operation. And then 4 weeks before our first child, that disaster had happened. So I became deeply superstitious about planning for the future. I was terrified to be the architect of my own happiness. My post-pregnancy weight ballooned to 90 kgs, and I thought this was awesome. I'd seen people die of cancer. They weren't fat. But something had to give. I had to try and find a way to feel in control of my own body and my own mind. I remembered the things that Helen had started researching about nutrition before she died. I tried to reject a lot of those good practices I had because they reminded me of being sick, and I felt now I wasn't sick. But I started to revisit them. I joined the gym and started exercising, mainly with 2 preschoolers as a way of getting out of the house. And when I heard there was a company in New Zealand called Little Bird who were doing raw food, I decided I really had to track them down. The owner, Megan, and I had a friend in common. So when I sidled up to her at a party and said, "I'm your #1 fan," I didn't seem too creepy. Meeting Megan was an amazing, amazing part of my journey towards ongoing good health. She is someone that also had ill health in the past that she'd learnt to manage through incredible, life-giving, delicious foods. And the nourishment and care that she gave to me reverberated through my whole family. She's the reason my children take kale and almond milk smoothies in their lunchbox. Megan also introduced me to her yoga teacher, Jack, and that was an absolute revelation for me. Yoga gave me a love for and a confidence in my body that I thought I would never, ever have after everything I saw it as having put me through. When the space above Little Bird became available, I leaped at the chance to open a yoga studio upstairs from it. Called The Centre, we provide a yoga studio and wellness space that incorporates the amazing food from Little Bird downstairs, and a huge focus of what we do is free classes for people with cancer and also for seniors. These free classes for people with cancer, to me, it's not even so much about the yoga. It's about the sense of community that they get from being with people who understand what they're going through. We also provide green smoothies at these classes for another tool in their toolbox. It's a time when people really don't have much control over their body. If you're undergoing treatment for cancer, so much of your body is at the hand of medical professionals. So we're really aiming to empower people and just provide a safe space for them. I often think back to that analogy of the soup, and the ingredients of my body are a Michelin-starred dish now compared to what they were. I no longer live above a kebab shop. I live on an urban farm in Point Chev with chickens, ducks, 2 really naughty boys and a divine husband. I drink very little, I eat very, very well, and I get up early every morning to practice yoga. And the reasoning behind it has changed. I'm not doing it from a sense of fear or an urgency at what might happen to me. I'm doing it because I love the confidence it gives me to move forward in life. The vain fashion girl in me loves that it has me looking better than I did at 26. And it gives me the energy to keep up with my family. I love this recipe for life so much more.